I didn't plan to meet her. That's the part people never believe, but it's the truth. I wasn't looking for comfort or distraction. I just needed noise, something to drown out the loop in my head replaying Emily's voice, her calm explanation of why I wasn't enough anymore. The bar sat just off the highway, far enough from town that you didn't run into anyone you knew unless you really wanted to. I went there because it felt anonymous. She was already sitting at the far end, nursing a whiskey like it wasn't her first of the night, but also not her escape. There was something steady about her presence. Not guarded, not desperate. I took the seat 2 stools away. Ordered a beer. Didn't look at her. "You look like someone who just had his life rearranged," she said. I laughed once, surprised despite myself. "Is it that obvious?" She glanced at me then. Sharp eyes. Calm smile. Mid-30s, if I had to guess. Confident in a way that didn't ask permission. "Only to people who've been there," she replied. Her name was Laura. She was 34, worked remotely as a project consultant, and had moved to town a year earlier for quiet, not community. She didn't ask about Emily. Didn't push for details. Just let the conversation breathe. That alone felt different. We talked about small things at first. The town, the weather, how places like this trap people in older versions of themselves. I told her I was 24. She raised an eyebrow, amused but not judgmental. "You don't act like it," she said. I shrugged. Guess I didn't get the memo. When I finally mentioned the cheating, it came out flat, like I was reading a report instead of my own life. Laura listened without interruption. No gasps. No advice. When I finished, she took a sip of her drink and said, "That hurts because you were honest, not because you were boring." That sentence hit harder than anything Emily had said. We didn't exchange numbers that night. No dramatic moment. We just walked out at the same time, stood in the parking lot under the buzzing lights, and nodded goodbye like two people who understood the weight of restraint. I thought about her more than I wanted to admit. A week later, I ran into her again, this time at the farmer's market. She smiled like she'd been expecting me, but not in a way that made me feel small. "Coffee?" she asked. We started seeing each other casually. Not dates, conversations. Walks. Long pauses that didn't feel awkward. She asked real questions, the kind that didn't let you hide behind humor. "Why do you think you stayed?" she asked one afternoon. "With Emily?" I replied. She nodded. I thought about it. Really thought. "Because I thought stability was the same as love," I said finally. Laura smiled. "That's a common mistake. There was chemistry, but it wasn't chaotic. It was deliberate. Controlled. She set boundaries without apology. Didn't rush intimacy. Didn't pretend this was something it wasn't." Meanwhile, word started spreading. Emily noticed. She started texting again, asking how I was, telling me she missed us. Laura never commented on it, until one night, when she simply said, "Just make sure you're choosing forward, not reaction." I didn't fully understand what she meant yet, but I was about to. Emily didn't show up crying or apologetic. She showed up confident. That was what threw me. I ran into her at the grocery store, the same place we used to argue about cereal brands like it mattered. She looked different, lighter, almost, like she'd shed something heavy and wasn't sure yet if she missed it. "Hey," she said, like we were old friends. I nodded, unsure what version of myself she expected to find. We made small talk. Weather. Work. Nothing real. Then she leaned in slightly and said, "I heard you've been spending time with someone." I didn't deny it. "That was fast," she added, trying to sound casual. "It wasn't," I replied. "It just looks that way from the outside." She smiled tightly. "You never moved on quickly before." That was the moment I understood. This wasn't about regret. It was about control. About her realizing the safety net hadn't stayed where she left it. Later that night, she texted me. I made a mistake. I didn't realize what I had until it was gone. I stared at the messages longer than I should have. Laura noticed the shift in me immediately. "You don't need to explain," she said when I told her. "But you do need to be honest with yourself." I asked her if she was worried. "No," she said. "I trust patterns more than promises." That line stayed with me. Emily escalated. She asked to meet. Said she needed closure. Said she'd ended things with Mark. I agreed to coffee, not because I wanted her back, but because I needed to see who I was now when faced with the past. She arrived dressed like she used to when she wanted something. Familiar perfume. Familiar smile. "You look different," she said. "So do you." She talked about confusion, about feeling lost, about how Mark wasn't what she thought he was. She never said she was sorry, not really. She talked around the hurt, not through it. What about her? She asked eventually. Is it serious? I thought of Laura's calm presence, her honesty, the way she didn't rush or manipulate. Yes, I said, in the ways that matter. Emily frowned. She's older, right? I didn't respond. She sighed. You don't even see it. She's using you. It's a phase. That was the moment the last thread snapped. I'm not available to be reduced like that anymore, I said quietly. Her eyes widened, not with sadness, but surprise. I paid for my coffee and stood up. Outside, the air felt clearer. Emily texted again later that night, but I didn't respond. Not out of anger, but because the conversation was over. When I told Laura about it, she didn't celebrate. She just nodded. That's what choosing forward looks like. Something shifted between us after that. Not intensity, trust. She leaned in a little more. I did too. But the town was watching now. Whispers grew louder. Assumptions multiplied. People love simple stories, and ours wasn't simple. And somewhere beneath all of that, Laura had her own reasons for staying guarded. Reasons I hadn't asked about yet. But soon I would. I realized Laura was holding back the night I asked her the wrong question. We were sitting on the tailgate of my truck, parked just outside town where the lights thinned and the road stretched into darkness. I asked casually, "Why do you really move here?" She didn't answer right away. Not because she didn't have one, but because she hadn't decided if I'd earned it yet. Sometimes, she said finally, starting over isn't about the place. It's about who you stop being. That was all she gave me. I let it go, but the distance lingered. Not cold, deliberate. She was present, engaged, but there was a wall I kept brushing up against. And instead of forcing it, I paid attention. People tell you to look for red flags. No one talks about the meaning of restraint. A few days later, we ran into Mark. He was with Emily. Seeing them together didn't hurt the way I expected. It felt like looking at a photograph from someone else's life. Mark smirked when he saw me. Heard you traded up, he said, glancing at Laura. Laura met his gaze evenly. That assumes he was shopping, she replied. Mark laughed, uncomfortable. Emily didn't say a word. We walked away without another glance. Later that night, Laura was quieter than usual. That guy, she said eventually. He reminds me of someone I used to trust. I waited. She took a breath. I was married once. The sentence landed softly, but the weight behind it was heavy. He cheated, she continued, with someone younger. And when I confronted him, he told me I was predictable. The parallel wasn't lost on either of us. I stayed too long, she said. Not because I loved him, but because I didn't want to admit I'd ignored my instincts. For the first time, I saw something raw in her. Not broken, aware. I won't do that again, she added. With anyone. That explained everything. The boundaries. The pace. The caution. I don't need you to promise anything, she said. I just need honesty, even when it's inconvenient. I can do that, I replied. And I meant it. From that moment, the dynamic changed. We didn't rush, but we deepened. She trusted me with pieces of herself. I trusted her with mine. The town, meanwhile, had opinions. People stared longer now, talked louder. Someone joked about midlife crises within earshot. I felt anger rise, but Laura didn't react. Let them talk, she said. Noise fades. Emily tried one last time to reach out. Not directly, but through mutual friends. Questions. Curiosity. Regret disguised as concern. I shut it down. Not aggressively. Cleanly. And that, more than anything, seemed to unsettle her. Laura noticed. You're not angry anymore, she said. I'm just done, I replied. She smiled. That's healthier. We didn't know it yet, but the calm we'd found was temporary. Because something was coming, an opportunity for Laura that would test everything we'd built, and force me to decide who I was becoming without her standing right beside me. Laura told me about the offer on a Sunday morning, over coffee that had gone cold between us. She didn't ease into it. I might have to leave town for a while, she said. The words landed heavier than I expected. Not because I doubted us, but because I recognized the familiar feeling of stability shifting under my feet. For work? I asked. She nodded. A long-term contract. 6 to 8 months. East Coast. I stared at the mug in my hands, watching steam fade. A year ago, this would have triggered panic. Questions. Promises made too fast. This time, something else surfaced first. Pride. That's big, I said. You should take it. She studied my face, searching for hesitation. You don't even know the details yet, she said. I know you, I replied. She exhaled, tension loosening slightly. I haven't decided. I wanted to see how you'd react. That honesty mattered. We spent the day talking through what distance would look like. Not romantically, practically. Communication. Expectations. Space. No pressure, she said. No performance. I realized then how different this was from everything I'd known. No ultimatums. No tests disguised as vulnerability. The town reacted predictably when the rumor surfaced. He's going to get hurt, someone said at the gas station. She's just passing through, another added. Emily heard too. She texted me for the first time in weeks. I always knew she wouldn't stay. You deserve someone stable. I didn't respond. Not because I was afraid of reopening wounds, but because I no longer needed validation from someone who'd mistaken familiarity for loyalty. Laura noticed the shift. You're not chasing certainty, she said one night. You're choosing integrity. That word stayed with me. Integrity. Not holding on. Not letting go. Just standing where you are without pretending. As the weeks passed, Laura prepared quietly. She didn't dramatize the decision. She didn't seek reassurance. Instead, she asked me something unexpected. If I go, she said, what will you do with the space? I didn't answer right away. I'll use it, I said eventually. Not to wait. To build. She smiled, not relieved, not sad. Respectful. That night, we were closer than we'd ever been. Not rushed. Not desperate. Just connected, aware that this was a turning point. And yet, beneath the calm, something else was brewing. Because when people sense they're losing influence, they don't always leave quietly. And Emily wasn't finished yet. Laura came back on a Thursday evening. No announcement. No build-up. Just a message that said, I'm home, and an address that hadn't changed. I drove over slower than necessary, not out of nerves, but awareness. Distance had reshaped us. I didn't know yet what proximity would reveal. She opened the door wearing a sweater I remembered, hair pulled back, expression calm but searching. We hugged, and it felt familiar without being automatic. Like returning to a place that had been renovated while you were gone. You look taller, she said. I laughed. You look lighter. We sat at the kitchen table, catching up in pieces. Work stories. New habits. Small changes that hinted at bigger shifts underneath. Then she said something that surprised me. I don't want to go back to how things were. Neither did I. What we had before was good, but it had been shaped by recovery. By contrast. By healing. Now, we were standing on different ground. The town noticed immediately. Someone saw my truck outside her place. Someone else mentioned seeing us together at the bookstore. The whispers returned, softer this time, but sharper. Emily noticed too. She sent one last message. I hope she doesn't hurt you. It wasn't concern. It was projection. I didn't reply. Laura asked about Emily once, briefly. Is she still trying? She asked. No, I said. She's watching. Laura nodded. That's different. The next few weeks were an adjustment. We renegotiated space. Time. Expectations. Being together after growth requires more intention than starting fresh. There were moments of friction, not fights, but misalignment. Old habits bumping into new boundaries. One night, she said, I don't want us to merge out of fear of losing momentum. I understood exactly what she meant. So we didn't rush. We chose. Individually. Together. I accepted the role I'd been eyeing in the nearby city. A step forward, not an escape. Laura expanded her consulting work, turning the temporary contract into leverage for more autonomy. We weren't building a shared identity. We were building parallel ones that intersected by choice. That scared people, because it couldn't be labeled easily. The age gap stopped being the headline. It became irrelevant, not ignored, just insufficient to explain us. One afternoon, I ran into Mark again. He looked tired. She didn't turn out how I expected, he said, unprompted. I shrugged. People rarely do. He glanced at me. You seem different. I am, I said. That was the last time we spoke. Laura noticed the shift in how I carried myself. You're not reacting anymore, she said. You're directing. That felt accurate. For the first time, my life wasn't framed by what I'd lost, but by what I was actively choosing. Still, there was one final decision ahead. Not about Emily. Not about the town. About whether Laura and I were willing to keep choosing each other. Not because it was easy, but because it was aligned. And that question didn't come from outside. It came quietly, from within. The question came on an ordinary night. No tension. No argument. Just the kind of quiet that makes honesty unavoidable. We were sitting on her couch, lights low, the town outside already asleep. Laura looked at me the way she did when she wasn't searching for reassurance, but clarity. "Where do you see yourself in a year?" she asked. It wasn't a trap. It wasn't a test. It was an invitation. I thought about the city job, the momentum I'd built, the version of myself that no longer needed permission. "I see myself growing," I said. "Not stuck, not settling." She nodded. "And us?" "That took longer. I see us choosing each other," I said carefully. "But not instead of ourselves." She smiled. "That's the only answer that would have worked." Then she said something that shifted the ground. "I don't want children," she said. "I never have." The honesty was immediate, unapologetic. I didn't react right away, not because I was shocked, but because I respected the weight of what she'd just shared. "I might," I said. "Someday. I don't know yet." We sat with that. No panic. No bargaining. Just truth. "This doesn't mean we end things," she said. "It means we don't lie about them." That distinction mattered. For the first time, I understood what adult intimacy really was. Not chemistry. Not sacrifice disguised as devotion. Alignment with eyes open. The town wouldn't understand this. They'd reduce it to age, to phases, to inevitability. But they weren't in the room. We talked late into the night. About timelines. About flexibility. About honoring who we were without forcing premature decisions. Emily crossed my mind, not with anger, but contrast. She'd wanted certainty without honesty. Laura offered honesty without guarantees. One builds resentment. The other builds trust. I realized something then. Even if this relationship ended someday, it wouldn't break me. Because it wasn't filling a void. It was meeting me where I stood. That awareness changed everything. Later that week, someone at work asked if I was serious about Laura. I answered without hesitation. "Yes," I said, "in the way that matters." They didn't know what to do with that. Laura laughed when I told her. "People confuse seriousness with permanence," she said. "They're not the same." The town continued doing what it does best, simplifying complexity into gossip. But we weren't available for simplification. And for the first time, I wasn't afraid of questions without answers. Because the right relationship doesn't remove uncertainty. It teaches you how to stand inside it. Something shifted after that conversation. Not between Laura and me, but between me and the town. It was subtle at first. I stopped explaining myself. Stopped anticipating judgment. Stopped rehearsing defenses that no one had formally asked for. I realized how much mental space small towns occupy if you let them. At work, my new role demanded focus. Responsibility. I started commuting more, spending less time in the places where rumors recycled themselves. Growth has a way of changing your geography. Laura noticed it before I named it. "You're not orbiting here anymore," she said. "You're passing through with intention." That felt right. Emily, meanwhile, faded. Not dramatically. No final confrontation. No closure scene. Just absence. The messages stopped. The appearances dwindled. The curiosity lost its urgency once it no longer provoked reaction. That was the real ending. One evening, Laura and I attended a local event. Nothing fancy. Just music and food trucks. People noticed us, but they didn't stare the way they used to. We weren't news anymore. We were normal. And somehow, that felt like success. Later that night, sitting on her porch, Laura said something that surprised me. "I don't want to stay here forever." I nodded. "Neither do I." There was no sadness in it. Just clarity. We talked about timing. About options. About leaving without running. It wasn't a pact. It was alignment. I thought back to the person I'd been when Emily cheated, anchored by fear of loss, convinced stability meant safety. Now, stability came from self-trust. And that changed how I loved. Laura didn't need me to stay. I didn't need her to remain still. That freedom didn't weaken us. It strengthened us. The town lost its grip because we stopped feeding it. No secrecy. No rebellion. Just quiet confidence. I ran into Emily one last time at the gas station. She looked tired, not broken, just worn down by stories that didn't resolve the way she expected. She nodded at me. I nodded back. That was it. No tension. No longing. Just two people who'd taken different turns. Driving away, I realized something important. Revenge had never been about her losing. It had been about me not shrinking. Laura said it best later that night. "You didn't win against anyone," she said. "You just stopped playing." And she was right. The most powerful shift isn't dramatic. It's disengagement. Still, There was one final chapter ahead. Not about the past, but about what we were choosing to build, together or apart, without fear deciding for us. The decision didn't come all at once. It arrived in pieces, a conversation here, a realization there. Until one day, it was simply obvious. Laura and I were sitting in the city cafe near my new office, watching people move with purpose. She looked comfortable there. So did I. This feels right, she said. Not about the city. About us. We didn't decide to move in together. We didn't announce long-term plans to anyone. We did something quieter. We chose continuity. To keep showing up. To keep telling the truth, even when it complicated things. We split our time between places. Built routines that didn't trap us. Supported each other's growth without demanding synchronization. And that became the foundation. I thought back to the night Emily cheated, the confusion, the loss of footing. I'd believed then that betrayal was an ending. It wasn't. It was a forced edit. A removal of what no longer aligned. Laura never replaced Emily. She revealed me. The version of myself that didn't settle for comfort disguised as love. The one who valued honesty over reassurance, depth over drama. The age gap stopped being a factor worth mentioning. It didn't disappear. It just stopped explaining anything. What mattered was intention. One afternoon, Laura said something that felt like a closing sentence. I don't know how long this chapter lasts, she said, but I know it's real. That was enough. We weren't building a fantasy. We were building capacity, for presence, for choice, for change. The town faded further into the background. Its opinions no longer shaped our decisions. Its stories no longer defined us. Emily became a memory without charge. Not forgiven. Not resented. Integrated. And that's when I understood the real ending. Not happiness. Agency. The ability to stand inside your life without outsourcing your worth. If you told me a year ago that betrayal would lead me here, I wouldn't have believed you. But that's the thing about endings. They rarely look like closure. They look like clarity. And sometimes, the most powerful revenge isn't moving on fast. It's moving forward, honestly. I didn't catch her cheating the way people expect. No lipstick on a collar, no late-night texts lighting up her phone. It was quieter than that. Too quiet. We lived in a small town in Oregon, the kind where nothing really disappears. If someone does something stupid on Friday, half the town knows by Sunday. I was 24, working a steady job at a hardware supply warehouse, saving money, thinking I was building something solid with Emily. We'd been together almost 3 years. That night started like any other. I came home later than usual, hands sore, head buzzing from forklifts and inventory counts. The house lights were on, but the place felt empty in a way I couldn't explain. Emily was sitting on the couch, scrolling on her phone, smiling at something that clearly wasn't me. You eat? I asked. She nodded too quickly. Yeah, with Katie. Katie was her excuse for everything lately. I went to the kitchen, opened the fridge. 2 wine glasses. One still half full. Emily didn't drink that much anymore. She'd said it messed with her sleep. I didn't say anything. I hadn't learned how yet. How to trust my instincts instead of burying them. She came up behind me, wrapped her arms around my waist. It felt rehearsed, like a move she remembered she was supposed to make. You okay? She asked. Yeah, I lied. Just tired. We watched TV that night, but her leg didn't rest against mine like it used to. She laughed at her phone more than the screen. When I asked what was funny, she said, just memes. I went to bed before her. Around 1 a.m., I woke up to the sound of the front door opening. I didn't check the time. I didn't sit up. I just lay there, staring at the ceiling, listening to her steps move softly through the house like she didn't want to be noticed. That was the moment something cracked. The next few weeks felt like slow torture. She was distant but attentive enough to keep me guessing. She'd plan date nights, then cancel them. She'd talk about our future, then avoid me for days. One afternoon, I ran into Mark, a guy I vaguely knew from town. Older than me. Confident. The kind of guy who always seemed to know where he was going. Emily's doing good, he said casually, like it was nothing. My stomach dropped. You've talked to her? I asked. He hesitated. Just long enough. Yeah, he said. A bit. That night, I finally asked her. She didn't deny it. Didn't cry. Didn't apologize the way I expected. I didn't plan for it to happen, she said. It just did. 3 years reduced to a sentence. She said she felt stuck. Said I was safe, but not exciting anymore. Said she needed to feel something different. I packed a bag and left that night. I ended up sitting in my truck by the river, engine off, staring at the water like it might explain how I'd missed the signs. I didn't know it then, but that night didn't end my story. It redirected it. And the next person I met would change everything. Not by saving me, but by refusing to let me lie to myself ever again.